Crystal, because, yeah, I'm
Just
following.
skip me.
Oh,
Just
nah,
skip me.
dude, Lord, I don't know nothing about that. I only know a couple of players, and I accepted the rules pregnant, and that was it.
I think we're live.
Well, good evening,
Oh,
WNBA and
oh,
women's basketball fans, and
I
welcome
didn't know it
into
was on.
another edition of the WNBA 365 Network, your 24/7, 365 comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball universe. Back with you folks here as we inch our way ever so closer to the 2016 WNBA season, the 20th season of the longest-running women's professional sporting league. Joined tonight, folks, by the starting five here for the WNBA 365 Network here on our Free Agent Central show for Monday night, January 25th, 2016, alongside everyone between Shorty Mamba 24, Tanisha Stewart, Reagan Patrick, Crystal Thomas, and, of course, Eric Nemchok, all joining us tonight alongside Kyle McClurg here in studio from Studio 171 in San Diego. Everyone, good evening, and how has the off time been?
It's been good. It has been very, very, very good. Much needed. Been busy, stressful.
All right, so before we start the show, I would just like to shout out to, the WNBA fans that are on Tumblr. You can follow the network now on Tumblr. You can catch our latest updated blog posts or any other women's basketball leagues at www.wnba365.tumblr.com.
So continuing to expand, to build more bridges, folks, and of course, Facebook fan page and Instagram coming very soon. So again, we are still extending our ways here, excuse me, on the WNBA 365 network. Now, folks, before we do get into anything in regards to the season and also for the big news today, the Olympic roster pool also unveiled earlier today, and we'll talk more free agency and some overseas coverage, as you may have heard, before we really got the ball rolling here. But obviously, starting with probably the only other person in the entire hangout that actually does enjoy watching soccer, that'd be, of course, Reagan and myself. Now, Reagan, I know that you were at the Superdome when the U.S. women's national team had played their victory tour match against China, which, of course, was the late, great Abby Wambach's final match. I got to see the national team play in San Diego on Saturday in front of a San Diego record crowd of 23,309 in a 5-0 win for Team USA over the Republic of Ireland. And, Reagan, obviously, I know that you have, traveled to more of these games than I have. This was my first women's national team game ever, and this was the 600th they played in San Diego. And I think that more so I was kind of swept away, not because of what happened over the summer with the World Cup victory or whatever it may have been, and of course a lot of the players retiring, but more so, again, seeing that big of a crowd that became a record crowd for any of the 6 games played in San Diego, about how that this team has really, they've been the face or faces of putting female sports permanently on the map, not just in the U.S. but across the world. So, Reagan, seeing San Diego, that right now, you may know, well, we are right now in shambles of perhaps losing the Chargers to L.A., which, of course, would be a pretty major blow to the city sports-wise. But, seeing that, though, for a soccer match of any ilk, men or female, national team or not, more so with this, what does that say, though, about how female sports are, really slowly, progressing in the U.S. in your mind as you see that crowd in San Diego on Saturday?
Well, I feel like female sports they're on the come up. It's just slowly inching their way to the top. I feel like if the fans stick around long enough, or if we continue to gain fans, then it shouldn't be long until we're at a more stable point.
Yeah, I think stability is one key as well. And again, Reagan, it was just, I kind of got swept up in the emotion of, hopping over the plaza, the plaza level barricade to run down to the field level and just, try to see some of the players during pregame warmups, and just hearing the ovation that this team got from over 23,000 people that pretty much sold out the entire plaza level, plus some spattering of club level seats at a 65,000 seat, 50-year-old worn-down NFL stadium, showed me a lot that, that not only is women's sports progressing and soccer's progressing, but the fact, though, that San Diego could even host, possibly have an MLS team or even some type of soccer club really soon on the pro level, that really was captivating, but also as well, Reagan, just seeing all the Americana at Qualcomm on Saturday from the pregame tailgate parties I'd gone to 4 hours before kickoff. People from San Diego, Orange County, the Inland Empire, people coming out from Phoenix, even a guy coming down from Portland, Oregon with his Portland Thorn scarf along with everything else. And again, just that the experience, I guess, is what I would say more. And like I said, Reagan, you've been to more of these games than I have. So, again, with this going on. But, Eric, I guess I'll kind of, go your way now because, again, you and I sit here on this network almost every night and again, and as we said a lot, though, too, as well, man. Again, male sports fans admiring and watching and respecting female sports courses, not where it should be. But, of course, with me going to this game and feeling, and being a part of such a pretty big, game towards this club when they do go for Olympic qualifying, and seeing a lot of those male fans wearing, LaRue jerseys or Morgan jerseys or Carly Lloyd jerseys really spoke volumes about, what you kind of see sometimes though over the summer for WNBA games. So, Eric, I guess, from a male perspective, what does the crowd, I guess, as well kind of say about, embracing female sports in the U.S. as well? Again, 23,309, a new record for a women's soccer match in San Diego, California.
Yeah, I'm not that big of a soccer fan, but as a fan of women's sports in general, it's just really good to see. I think the U.S. women's national team has done an excellent job of marketing. Their marketing department is second to none, and the Women's World Cup, too, in general. I mean, again, I don't know that much about soccer, but I think the general consensus was it was marketed very well, and it's very accessible to fans of, hardcore soccer fans and casual fans and just people who are tuning in just for the first time, maybe. So I think that's a big part of it. But yeah, like Reagan said, women's sports, it's still an uphill battle. It's still an uphill battle, but I think we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah, we're climbing that mountain and climbing that hill ever so slowly. And then Reagan, of course, I can probably go back to this because I'm sure that you probably were, probably turning me on either mute or do not disturb last night because you guys may know, again, I did add the NWSL to one of the newer leagues I'm going to start covering. I guess I can kind of say I kind of jumped on the bandwagon following Saturday and just seeing, pretty much seeing greatness on the soccer field. But, of course, Reagan, we talked about this, though, during our show in November when I was up in Los Angeles. And, again, of how this is, how the NWSL is in the same boat as the WNBA, starting slow, trying to gain publicity and, trying to grow that league now from 9 to 10 teams starting in a couple months with the new club in Orlando. And, of course, seeing the best soccer talent, not just from the national team, but from teams getting players from other countries. Some pretty notable names are from Brazil and Australia. So seeing that. So, of course, Reagan, we know about the W, but in your mind, though, what does the NWSL, I guess, have to kind of do, though, to also sort of get where the WNBA is now? As you look back now, 20 years of WNBA basketball, now going into 4 years now of NWSL soccer. What do you think and why, though, as you kind of think about it for April, once the season does get rolling?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, but I would probably have to ask my roommate this question. How many? There have been I think two leagues before the NWSL. Yeah, there have been 2 leagues before the NWSL, and unfortunately, they were cursed with the 3 years curse. They were cursed with the 3 years curse, and they made it to 3 years, and it just folded. So I think the NWSL. I think they've learned their mistakes, well, some of their mistakes, and they're being blessed with their 4th year right now. So if they just keep doing what they're doing, trying to keep improving, then maybe they'll make it to where the WNBA is, and maybe even further.
And Reagan, before we do move on, I will admit, too, I was a huge fan of the WUSA the early 2000s when the San Diego Spirit played at USD. They had Shannon McMillan and Julie Foudy, and, of course, Shannon Box as well played for them briefly before they had that 3-year curse and sadly, of course, went away. But, of course, guys, getting back on track now as we were kind of derailed, of course, with me going off beat like I normally do most times. But we will get on track, though, guys, with the pool, though, for the 2016 Rio Olympics for women's basketball. Of course, WNBA.com released the pool that will be picked and choose from USA basketball coach Gino Ariema. That list will include, but not limited to, Simone Augustus, Sue Bird, Tamika Catchings, Tina Charles, Elena Deladon, Skylar Diggins, Stephanie Dolson, Candice Dupree, Sylvia Fowles, Brittany Griner, Breanne January, Jantel Lavender, Jewel Lloyd, Kayla McBride, Angel McCautry, Maya Moore, Shanae and Nneka Agumake, Candace Parker, Danielle Robinson, Odyssey Sims, Brianna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, Courtney Vandersloot, and Lindsay Whalen will all be in the pool and mix for Rio 2016. Shorty, starting with you on this one, of course, I don't want to, kind of already give Team USA the gold medal because anything's possible in the playoffs of any sport or in the Olympics or even FIBA. But obviously, when you can name drop those 25 players, and there's so much talent to choose from, Shorty. Early thoughts about Rio and also about the pool that Team USA does have, for the final roster once training camp does get underway in a few weeks.
I mean, my initial thoughts, these top 25 players, in my opinion, they're great picks and they all deserve to be there. I know there's going to be a lot of talk between now and up until the Olympics where some people might say some players are undeserving or the amount in number of UConn players that's on the list, but that's another conversation in itself. But just, my initial thoughts, it's a great list and it's going to be one heck of a job, trimming the list down to, get that official number to, where you ultimately have the whole U.S. Olympic team.
Reagan, you look at these 25 players, you can pretty much, I guess, even make, a USA A team and a USA B team because this is just how loaded and how much firepower is on this powerhouse club and on this roster and, again, in this pool. So early thoughts in your mind, again, about seeing the talent and again, the firepower that, the Federation has to choose from for Team USA this summer.
I think it's going to be a hard decision. I was reading an article, I think the article that they put out earlier today, and Gino was saying how he could make two teams with the players that are on this list. But he also mentioned how he wanted to get some young guards in, and I think that's a great idea. I love the vets. I love them to death. But I feel like we should start, training the youngsters up, getting them in, getting some playing time.
Yeah, exactly, and we've seen that, of course, as well with other U.S. teams that have gone to other events where they've started playing younger players for roster issues. KT, obviously, as we said, as Gino again cited against saying, with so much talent in this pool of players to pick from again that you could easily form two squads for Rio and even probably for 2020 in Japan as well when they do go forward again for 2020 for the Olympics. But again, Crystal, give us your thoughts and early indications about the roster pool for the 2016 Rio Olympics.
I can agree with Reagan to train some of the younger players since it is going to be their league, when the vets go out. But I think it should be a mix of vets and younger players. But I think the vets should probably not be super old, but probably old enough to the point where they can, excuse me, where they can teach the young up-and-comer players pretty much what it's like to play in Team USA competition, because a lot of these players, it will be their first time experiencing anything like that, and it's a lot different, a lot more pressure because you're playing for a whole country rather than just one organization. But I can agree with Reagan, add a couple of the young pups in there.
Eric, there are two pretty seasoned age veterans in the pool, of course, between Sue Bird of Seattle and also Tamika Catchings of Indiana, mixed with, some very young up-and-coming players between Stewart, who's going to be, fresh out of college once the season does end and they do start the year, and she'll be in a rookie season. Of course, the Agumake sisters would be really great to see as well for them going forward. And then, of course, with Catch and Bird being the veteran leaders on this roster. So what are your thoughts, though, about the 25-player pool for Team USA going forward?
The 25-player pool, I think there is kind of a dilemma that Gino has between choosing between a lot of veterans, because there are some players. Obviously Catchings is pretty much lifetime achievement award. The only reason she's playing again this year is so she can be on the Rio team. I think you have the same thing with Sue Bird, and this may be her last year, and obviously DT's getting up there too. But at the same time, Reagan's absolutely right. You have to start developing talents. You have to start grooming some players. You have a dilemma at the guard situation. You got Sims versus Diggins, Kayla McBride. You can't count her out. Daniel Robinson, I don't think will be playing because of I think we've had some injuries or something, injury situation with her. Not really sure what's going on with that. But and you have Ogumake versus Ogumake. Probably not going to have both of them on the roster. So It's tough, man. Like he said, we could field a gold medal team and a silver medal team out of these players, but it's not something. It's not a job I'd like to do. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and I'm glad that none of us are in charge either, because that would be a pretty tough dilemma for even 5 of us to pick the final roster for Team USA. You can find out more about that, folks, on WNBA.com. Tanisha, going back to you, of course, we'll kind of recap and kind of go back over the free agent list again, free agency again. Players cannot opt into contracts until next Monday, February 1st, when they can officially start doing that next Monday. Of course, Shorty, those 4 players that can be cored by their clubs again will include DeWanna Bonner, Sylvia Fowles, Crystal Langhorne, and Candace Parker. So obviously, I'm sure that you and KT were probably a little bit surprised last show we had here when Langhorne was on this list. But again, we probably got a small indication, at least Crystal thinks here, a possible sign and trade deal that sadly reminds me of when Steve Nash was signed and then traded to the Lakers by the Suns towards the tail end of his career. So of course, that is possibly in the loop. But again, Shorty, you're again. Final take, though, again, court players again, Bonner, Fowles, Langhorne, and Parker for 2016.
Now, when it comes to Crystal's comments on the last show, I do agree. Of course, I was initially surprised seeing Crystal Langhorne court, but I do agree that she might, be court for a possible sign and trade reason. But for everyone else, I mean, it makes sense. Candace Parker makes sense, Fowles makes sense, and also, DeWanna Bonner. Now, I think some people might have took issue with, DeWanna Bonner and why she was cored, but, it made sense because, from that organization, who else are you going to core? They already have, that reinsurance from DT and PT, so it doesn't make any sense, to core those two when you already know they're pretty much going to be Mercury for life, and then Dupree as well. They may have the reinsurance from her, so Bonner's the only one in that group that makes sense. And then Brittany Griner will be under contract for the next few years. So again, but those other remaining 3 of Bonner, Parker, and Fowles definitely make sense when talking about the core players on the list.
Reagan, again, I think that the 3 of us that were on here last free agency show, again, were, kind of raising eyebrows, and I had mine done earlier in the afternoon today, so I can pretty much say that. But again, Reagan, again, possibly, again, sign and trade deal, Seattle would, again, sign Langhorne and possibly deal her somewhere else. Again, I was probably the one more surprised about Bonner being on this list, but again, like Shorty brought up, though, again, Phoenix really had no option to core anyone else. Again, no Taurasi, no Taylor, no sense of doing that, and of course, Griner's under contract for the next few years. So, what are your thoughts again about the core list again for the season?
I basically agree with what you guys have been saying. I think it makes sense. But I was also surprised to see that DeWanna Bonner was on here. But then again, like I said, it does make sense. So.
Yeah. And Crystal, I think as well with Langhorne as well, all the Storm and Mercury were kind of in that same, row your boat down the stream, sadly, is there was really no one perhaps on the roster that they really were going to perhaps core. And again, as we brought up here already 4 times in a matter of 30 seconds, again, possibly sign and trade is what could be, on the table for the Storm going forward. But again, as you said, really no option to core anyone else perhaps. So I guess, reiterate comments, I guess, or again, reiterate thoughts going forward about the list.
Like I said before, I think Crystal Langhorne is pretty much going to be there for just pretty much a trade. Sorry, folks out there, I'm dealing with allergies, so forgive me if I sound like Kermit the Frog or something. But I think Crystal Langhorne is going to be core just possibly for a trade because they are getting there. Most likely they're going to draft Breanna Stewart. Breanna Stewart's younger. You could develop her more, and why wouldn't you take that chance? So I think that's probably the main reason why she's being cored. And everyone else, I'm not really surprised about.
Eric, again, we see a pretty short list of core players again, and we said, a couple teams that probably, didn't really. Probably were uncertain about what to do with certain players again. The Mercury again coring Bonner, of course Seattle coring Langhorne, and obviously with Minnesota coring Fowles, and of course LA coring Parker. So when he saw that, saw those names again, Initial thoughts are what?
Initial thoughts. Well, I mean, usually the core player list isn't a list that's very long. It's not something that teams really have to do. But as far as Bonner goes, people didn't expect to see her on there. But again, like Shorty said, it makes sense from a business standpoint. Like as far as the team is concerned, I know the players don't really like it, but that's tough. They agreed to it in the CBA. So yeah, but the other names I think they make a lot of sense. Fowles, obviously, Parker, Langhorne. Yeah, the core thing is kind of it's kind of gimmicky, if that's a good word for it, because I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure a lot of people really understand what it does. I don't really understand what it does, but yeah, I really have no more to say on the subject, so I will turn it over to the next participant.
Which would just send the ball back to me, and I'll try and make it assist someone else momentarily. I'll kind of go through quickly the list of restricted free agents for everyone out there again that may have missed the show or not read the press release yet. The RFAs are, again, we'll just go by last name, from Braylon Clark Gruda, Hayes Henry Hollingsworth, Glory Johnson, Shanice Johnson, Kaiser Neka Gumake, O'Hay Peterson and Peters, Poland, Saunders, Strickland, Swords, Worley, Talbert, and Raquana Williams. Shorty, I know that a few of those names, kind of made your, perhaps made your eyes kind of pop out of your sunglasses, perhaps. More so, I think it was Raquana Williams for both you and Crystal last show. But across that list, though, I mean, there's a lot of pretty good players on that RFA list. So, again, if you're probably trying to make a move to get one puzzle piece to fit the puzzle in the mold of the team, who do you have your eyes on, perhaps, and why?
Last show I did say for Los Angeles that we could try to somehow steal Alicia Clark out of Seattle. Though I'm not sure how they'll do that, or if Seattle would want to trade her. But yeah, she's just on the top of my mind on the free agency list for Los Angeles. And anyone else, I mean, there's some interesting, names without question. I talked about the Gruda situation. Not sure she's coming over at all. Hayes will be retained by ATL. So Henry, unless she too has some Olympic duties. Same with Hollingsworth. Johnson, I think Johnson and Williams were the two names that I said that could possibly be on the move. I think at least Dallas will try to dangle, their names in free agency to see what they can get out of the market for the market value. I think Johnson will be retained, have one hell of a season. Agumake is coming back without question. And last but not least, I'd say Strickland may also be a player that's dangled in the market, but I think Connecticut will ultimately retain her too.
Right, as we said, there's a lot of really notable names on this team, or on this list, I should say, that that obviously can make some type of impact. Of course, a lot of interesting names. Of course, Glory Johnson being on this list in wake of what, of course, happened over the 2015 offseason. But of course, Reagan, if you have your eyes on like one player, maybe two players that might make an impact somewhere, who are they and why?
Players that can make an impact anywhere. I feel like whoever gets Williams, they'll be lucky. If Dallas doesn't, well, is she still with Dallas?
Yeah.
Okay, so if Dallas doesn't keep her, then I feel like whoever gets her will be lucky, just because she's a player. She's more of a team player, but if she needs to, step up her game, then she'll step it up. And I also feel like if Atlanta keeps Hayes, then they'll go in their favor. I really like her. I didn't like her at first, but she proved to me that she can handle her alone. That she can handle her own. So
LA should have drafted her.
LA should have drafted a lot of people that they didn't draft. So
yeah.
But especially her specifically over one person. Excuse me.
Yeah, and with that, Crystal, we go to you now again, and so I know I got lost in the shovel. So again, Williams was on your radar, as Shorty said, she was also with Clark as well. But both of you guys were, both of you guys had taken sides on both those players. So again, Crystal, again, if there's one player, two players maybe that can make some type of impact on a team, who would it be and why?
Tiffany Hayes is one. I like her game. I mean, she's aggressive. Sometimes she's too aggressive. But for a player of her standard and a player of her stature, I guess that fits her perfectly. Rakina Williams, I don't know if Dallas will match any offer. I don't think they should, in my personal opinion, because I feel like they're holding her back. Because ever since they've got Adi Sim, she's kind of just have not really been a factor, and it's not her fault. I mean, they just have too many guards over there. Um, Shanice Johnson, but I wouldn't see Indiana giving her away. But I think if Shanice Johnson was to go elsewhere, she'd make an impact on a lot of different teams. She showed this year that she's actually a better player than what many perceived her to be when she was with Seattle. Not Seattle, San Antonio. Clark, of course. Alicia Clark, great defensive player, but Seattle's going to keep her. Like I said last show, she's a mentor to Joel Lloyd, and Seattle's getting older, and that's their bet that they're going to count on to pretty much take them to the motherland. How long will that be? We don't know, because Seattle is kind of on the downfall right now. But I feel like Alicia Clark would make an impact on any team she goes, and I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, I think everyone else is going to go to their respective teams that they've been on. I mean, that's pretty much it, basically.
Eric, obviously, so of course, Breland being on this list, of course, with you being in Chicago and everything else, and her story though really speaks volumes. Though again, coming back and beating cancer and a lot of other things that happened with her as well. Really good story, of course, going forward. But of course, Eric, if there's maybe one or two people on this list that could probably help out some team, who would you probably take and why?
Well, I could tell you who I would not take, and that's Sophia Young-Malcolm. I'm not really sure why she's on this list because she's retired. Same with our Minty Harrington. I don't know why they put retired players on this list. That's interesting. Anyway, I think Lori Johnson is an interesting name because obviously the drama surrounding her and everything this past season, and Tulsa's they're gonna get another high pick, and the emergence of Planette Pearson for them last season I think makes Johnson pretty expendable, honestly. So I think they're going to try to dangle her in trade rumors, maybe a sign and trade somehow. Not sure about that.
Go to Phoenix, right?
Right, exactly. Let's see. Yeah, NECA, she's probably staying. Unfortunately, Shanice probably staying. Hayes, I think with these free agents, the key is to find role players who are really going to excel somewhere else. So maybe someone like Leilani Mitchell. Let's see here. Dev Peters, I think, is going to get a big paycheck. I think she's ready to take that next step as a good post player. Latoya Sanders, I really like her. Let's see who else. Anika Henry, I think Atlanta should really consider keeping her. If they don't, she could do some damage elsewhere. But yeah, Breland, she's injured right now. Again. I'm not really allowed to say much about it, but they're going to try to keep her as well as DeSouza. So whoever wants her, you can put that to sleep.
So guys, moving now from the restricted league now unrestricted free agent list. We'll get to that again, of course, by last name again. List not limited to, but with Anjivon, Bass, Bird, Carson, Carter, Cash, Christian Cortillo, DeSouza, Goodrich, Kalena, and Nikki Green, Harrington, Jackson Jones, Jacobson, Zagoda, Tamika Johnson, Asia Jones, Kelly, Lacey, Lawson, Montgomery, Milton Jones, Mitchell, Snow, Crystal Thomas, not the stunt double on the network right now, Wheeler, Wiggins, Young Malcolm, and Zellos also on this list. So sort of, you have more of a mixture and a longer list to choose from on players who are unrestricted free agents going forward. So, of course, if you need to add someone off this list, Shorty, who is it and why?
Interesting. I do like Carson personally because Carson has always been one of my favorite players. Also, I'm a little bit biased because we share the same birthday, but ultimately I see her back, yes, July 28th, but I ultimately see her back in New York, so doesn't make sense. I did say on the last show that it may be possible that Sue Bird could be on the move. even though I think she may ultimately stay in Seattle just because and retire there. Cash has been everywhere, so you know where she'll end up next. Who else? Um, Bye, Felicia. I mean Tamika. Um, yeah, she gotta go. 1 year in LA. That's enough. That's enough. Who else? I can see Lacey on the move. Uh, Lawson will be good elsewhere. I think the Lynx may retain Montgomery. Um, yeah, we'll be saying goodbye to Snow, and then last but not least, um, I think New York will ultimately retain Wiggins, and Shavante Zellis will still be in Indy.
Ultimately, more than likely, I would agree with that one. And, you know, guys, I really actually don't see Cash leaving that way. I think, you know, she just recently scored a new gig doing some Knicks coverage on MSG, so I don't know if she would leave a television job to go elsewhere. Of course, also doing CBS SN and some part-time work with ESPN, so I really don't see that happening more so than anything else. But Reagan, again, longer list of names here that are all unrestricted. If any names pop out to you, who are they?
I like Carson. I've been a Carson fan for a while now. Let's see. Renee Montgomery has been like on 4 different teams this season alone, so I don't know what's going on with her. Bird, I think she's gonna retire in Seattle. I don't think she's going anywhere. Crystal Thomas, where are you going?
Well, you know, personally, I would like to take my talents to the Dallas Diamonds.
Dallas Diamond.
Oh, the Dallas Wings. I really. Oh, no, you know what? Look, I legitimately forgot for a second. That was my bad because I called them that so much. The Dallas Wings. I'm sorry. The Dallas Wings.
Dallas
Um, but yeah, I think Wiggins. I think she's gonna stay where she is, and of course, Zellis is gonna stay in Indy. So.
Okay, so maybe we need to swap places. We'll put the Crystal Thomas in the WNBA in Crystal's spot and move her to the W somewhere, perhaps on a one-day contract. So obviously, KT, as we said, there's a lot of names on this list to choose from. So again, if there's a couple players out there other than your stunt double that can make an impact, who is it and why?
Well, Misty Bass, I think for one, I think Phoenix is going to sign her, but I think she could be a person that if another team wants to get her, she can help that team out very, 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 very much. I like Misty Bass. I like what she did for them. She was a pretty big piece in, I guess you could say, their playoff run. It should have been a championship run, but we all know how that ended. Sue Bird, she's gonna go back to Seattle. She's like the mayor of that city. I don't see her going anywhere else. I don't see her going elsewhere. You know, when you think of Seattle, you think of pretty much LJ and Sue Bird, and I don't see why they wouldn't want to resign her. I don't see why she wouldn't resign there. Essence Carson, I think she's going back to New York. If she does go somewhere, I believe she can make an impact. Sid Carter, that's one that's up in the air. Swin Cash, y'all might remember what I said about Swin Cash last time. Right now, she's just a hand clapper. You know, she's kind of old. She's not that productive. I mean, if this is the Swin Cash from the Detroit Shock era or the Seattle Storm era, then I think a lot of people would probably be fighting over her. But I don't think she's gonna go anywhere. Shamika Christian, don't know. I can't pronounce this chick's last name. You know I'm bad with names. Is it Cortijo? Is that how it is?
It goes for me.
Well, Carla, whatever. Sorry, I'm bad with names. I'm sorry. I don't know where she ended up. I mean, she's a nice little player that you can come off the bench and utilize the role. Eric said DeSouza is probably going back to Chicago. She didn't really fit to me, so I'm not really sure. I mean, and just going from the bottom, trying to skip the list against the list. Tamika Johnson can go somewhere else, maybe Chicago with Eric's team.
Yep.
Any place but LA. I mean, she's nice, but we don't need you to run half of our shot clock off. I mean, that was terrible. I couldn't take it. Leilani Mitchell's going back. Michelle Snow's gonna be on her couch somewhere. Candace Wiggins is probably gonna go back to New York. That's not funny, it's true. And Shavonte Ellis, she might give another go around with Indiana. I don't see why she wouldn't. Oh, I forgot. Real quick, sorry, Kara Lawson. She played really well in DC. I think she should probably go back there. I like Kara Lawson, even though she's getting older. She, played pretty well. But I'm pretty sure she's gonna go back to DC.
For us West Coast out here, I just love how we always throw sand in Eric's face, whether it's Crystal writing about Avi going to Chicago via free agency, or now in this case, DeSouza not fitting in Chicago. Always picking on the guy that's last in line on the program. I love it.
You see what it is? I'm not a true West Coaster, so I kind of have to just throw it to him. I mean, we'll give him Avi for a pack of Gatorade.
Here we go again. Like, I don't know.
Always can't even defend him. So, like I said, picking on the guy last in line here, because you guys know it goes me, and then across your computer screen, your phone, it goes pretty much left to right almost. It goes from me to Shorty to Reagan to Crystal, then to Eric. So of course we're always throwing sand and snowballs at Eric, but of course Eric, obviously, DeSouza being on the list though, plus the Olympics as well, may not probably help her out. Perhaps going forward, she will be probably more than likely with the Brazilian national team going forward. But of course, Eric, with names on this list, who pops out to you and why?
None of them. I mean, not none of them. I do like Misty Bass. I think she's a solid role player. Kalana Green, I think, deserves a shot somewhere where she can get like a consistent role off the bench. Tamika Johnson, no thank you. Let's see. I agree that Kara Lawson's going back to DC because Mike Tebow, he loves his vets. I think she's played a really instrumental role in the development of those young guards like Cloud and Hill. Delisha Milton-Jones, is she like still? Is that still a thing? Is she playing again or what?
She was with Atlanta, yes.
I think Delisha Milton-Jones is made out of dust and air right now.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so does she get like Does she get like a bonus for that or something? Because I don't know. She already broke the games played record, so I don't see why else she's gonna play. But it's not my decision. So yeah, Leilani Mitchell, obviously knockdown shooter. That's a really intriguing name. I think obviously the closest to a superstar name that's on here is Zealous. But yeah, Crystal's right. I don't really see why she would leave Indiana. She had a down year last year, and Janice Johnson kind of took some of her minutes, but I think Indy's a good fit for her. I would love to have her in Chicago. Obviously, she's a great player, but I think she stays.
Yeah. So again, folks, we'll have more progressive talk about the free agency, and of course next Monday, folks, is when players can officially enter contract deals with their clubs. We'll have plenty of coverage with that next Monday as well, along with the remainder of the week. Shorty, starting with you on this one, it's been pretty much a complaint that I've read across social media lately, of course, is the reluctancy of the league to release the 2016 schedule. Now, again, this is an Olympic year, folks. Again, there will be a stopgap during the course of the season where everyone, again, will be on a hiatus, of course, to either partake in the Olympic Games, whether it's with the countries. But, of course, Shorty, this is something, though, that I think we kind of deal with every year is, again, when will a league schedule come out? Now, again, as you guys may have saw, again, we did have some of the key dates for the off-season. Again, May 13th will be the official start of the season. But sure, that really does not help people like me that's going to be going to New York for games or going to Connecticut or going elsewhere to go to games. This is the best time as well right now to book flights going for the summer. I mean, I've already been looking up trips to New York and Connecticut and other places I might be going to for either the W or the NWSL season. So, Shorty, I guess, your thoughts on, why the delay every offseason for the schedule not coming out or not being out, at a pretty decent time, though, where people can really take advantage of a lot of things for the summer months in your mind?
I mean, there's so much talk about the delay and so much speculation as well. Some people are speculating that the late release of the schedule may have something to do with, there not being a WNBA president, in charge at this time. I know we do have an interim president in Mark Tatum, but, I mean, there's no official president in yet, so we're still waiting for that, as well as waiting for the list. And, yeah, the delay is just, it's just mind-boggling. Though I did hear a rumor today that some a season ticket holder had said that the list may come out, the schedule may come out sometime next week. So that's the small little rumor that I've heard so far. But yeah, it's just crazy that it hasn't came out yet. But hopefully it does actually come out next week because I have a date that I'm circling, and usually for the LA Sparks, sometimes they do play on July 28th, which is my birthday. So I'm hoping that maybe during this year's schedule, they have a birthday game, and I can attend Staples Center this summer.
Reagan, and I think in both of our cases, and I could say both of our cases, with us trying to travel to either WNBA games or even NWSL games, either somewhere close to home, or in my case, you got to fly somewhere because there ain't no team in Southern California. But, with my case going to New York after I go to Hawaii for 2 weeks to announce a baseball tournament and vacation and surf and whatnot, again, is you want to kind of, take advantage of what you're being offered. I mean, I've been looking over trips to Portland and Seattle and Houston and KC for the NWSL season if I get the chance, but also to New York, to Connecticut, stuff like that as well. And no schedule being out for the WNBA does not help, either fans or even media members that have to go and travel the games. I believe it is Tanya Olick, I think is her name. She writes for she's like a writer for the Storm up in Seattle, and she has been complaining, and I am right there with her about no schedule being out because, again, this is your good chance to kind of take advantage of special deals either on airlines or whatnot. So, Reagan, I guess, where is your frustration, I guess, if there's no schedule out and, for the WNBA and, in everyone's case, we can't make plans for the summer as of right now?
Well, me being a college student and a sports business management major, I have two huge problems with the WNBA right now. For one, they don't have the internships up. So they're on my bad side for that. Two, the schedule isn't out. People can blame it on Richie. I'm sorry, I got distracted. People can blame it on Richie all they want, but I feel like this should have been in the making already.
Mhm.
Like, why would you need to wait to make a schedule? I mean, I guess I don't know what all goes into making a schedule for the league, but I feel like people should have already been discussing this. And even if it wasn't set in stone, they should have had like a pre-schedule already made, just going over it and, just looking over the mistakes. But the WNBA needs to get it together because they are really on my bad side right now.
Real quick, I'll point out real quick, Reagan, I was offered one internship or job from the W last night by the Stars for PR work, but too far to go, too hot for me, but I do love Texas barbecue. That's all I'll say about that one, so
Texas
no go for that
barbecue,
one. But, Crystal, when I think to this real quick is there's one pro sports league that always gets you ready for next season. That is Major League Baseball. The next season schedule comes out the second week of September for the following season, and no other league does that. Maybe the NFL does when they release the opponents. And Reagan, I don't even know if the Saints will play the Chargers in San Diego or LA, so I can't vouch for that one just yet for 2016. But baseball is the only league that I know of that always releases their next season schedule in season. That's what gets me pumped up for the next season when the Padres are in last place and not going anywhere in the National League West in baseball. So why can't other leagues, especially the WNBA, Crystal, we know that they're against the clock, they're against a lot of other things. Why can't they kind of get a bit organized and get the schedule out in a timely manner, especially for people like us that want to try to go to games over the summer?
Well, before I say that, Reagan, try the LA Sparks. They have internships up right now.
Yeah, I looked at one.
And second, it's because the people who run the league, like we've all been saying, they're pretty incompetent. I agree with Reagan. You can have at least a rough draft of the schedule available months ahead, but, I guess that's too hard to do. They don't want to do it. And, I mean, as long as LA doesn't play Seattle again, I'm okay. I don't want to see them play Seattle again for the opening game. I mean, it's been too long. I'd rather see them play something else. I'd rather see, like I said, Keisha from up the street and three little people play 3-against-1 basketball than see LA and Seattle play on opening day again. But I think it all just comes down to their laziness and their incompetence, pretty much. And I'm not trying to sound rude about it because I love the WNBA, but I agree with Reagan. I mean, that's what's bad about them. They don't market well, they don't prepare very well, and I mean that's all it came down to. I think it's just them kind of being lazy on that end.
Eric, before you broke away for a bit again, we've kind of been, I guess, expressing a bit of frustration again. There's no type of a league schedule, of course, out for 2016, and of course, like I brought up as well, people like me are trying to plan trips to the East Coast to go watch games or whatever it may be, and with no schedule, no time frame, no knowledge of when to plan trips, to take advantage of, airlines having pretty good rates right now, considering that the weather is really bad on the East Coast. It doesn't really help matters out, and I'm leaving right from Honolulu to the East Coast when I do leave, sometime in late July to go to a game in New York. But I guess, Eric, is there frustration on your end, though, trying to figure out when you'll be going back to Allstate or even back to UIC for games? All right, so Eric gets back in, and he's got no sound. So we'll take care of that momentarily. And this is a case of Mondays, folks. I'm like, burning. I'm on fire over here with all the jokes I've dropped tonight. And we've had some problems this evening with either audio or webcam issues. But now as Eric just come back, so again, Eric,
Hello,
we'll just.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
no, you're good to go now, man. So again, we'll just go back again.
Okay.
Where is your frustration, if there is any, about not having a summer schedule out for 2016?
My frustration right now is with my PC, but my frustration, I'm not really that frustrated because I have season tickets anyway, so like I know I'm going to be there regardless of it. But
Sookie now.
no, but seriously though, it is kind of frustrating because like, for professional sports league, you really do expect the schedule to be out at a reasonable time. It seems like we do this every single year. Obviously, the absence of a real full-time president is kind of the problem. And I understand they have to schedule a lot of things around the Olympics. That takes precedence. And just the fact of the matter is the league doesn't have enough respect. So these arenas they'll schedule other things like their comic book conventions or whatever we got booted out of Allstate for last playoffs. And also, but as far as the rumor concerning the schedule release goes, I can confirm that. I also heard it will be coming out soon, like in a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. We don't know, but hopefully soon, yeah.
I feel like I'm watching the Sword of the Stone again. There's no king in England, and they're hoping for a miracle for someone to pull that sword out of the stone because there's no league president with the WNBA, and as we even articulated, of course, that is possibly why there's a bit of a delay, though, with the schedule coming out. But Shorty, of course, this is, in spite of the frustration that we may have about no schedule again, this is a pretty monumental stepping stone, I guess, for the WNBA. 20 years of being the longest-running women's professional sporting league at any level, dating back to '97 with 8 teams, and it grew, of course, and then, of course, now where we are now. Through 20 years of, a lot of ups and downs, dynasties, Cinderella runs by great teams over those 20 years, of course. And again, 4 teams do celebrate their 20th season in some fashion between the Sparks, the Mercury, Stars, and Liberty being here since day one. Shorty, when you kind of think about it, putting in perspective, and you save us a lot, or you said a lot, of course, people, always doubting and saying that the league is going to fold next year or whatnot. But to be here 20 years later, and I think all of us in here in some are either the same age or older than the WNBA when it first started. Shorty, what does that kind of mean to you, though, as a female sports fan, seeing this league, enduring and and jumping over every hurdle on the track to where they're at now, again, 20 years of being the longest-running women's pro league in the U.S.?
I mean, I definitely think, it's great, and it's a sign of strength for the league, like I have restated over and over again, so many times, so many years, people say it's going to fold, and the WNBA still sticks around to their dismay and makes them even more upset every year. But, I mean, it just shows the resilience of the league, and yeah, this year is definitely a monumental year. 20 years, and still going to continue to be on a roll for the next few years to come. And I think in other shows we talked about hopefully they'll have some type of, big matchup. I mean, starting with the two teams who played, who played the very first, games in WNBA history, which was the LA Sparks and the New York Liberty. We should, make a big, you know, matchup, featuring those two teams. They'll definitely be great for the, league schedule and things like that. So hopefully they can make that happen. But yeah, 20 years and running, haters stay mad.
Reagan, I think that, between the NWSL and female soccer and, of course, the WNBA, of course, being, on the front line and advocating for the league going forward, what does it mean to you, though, seeing the WNBA here 20 years later?
It's older than I am. But,
Really?
yeah, I'm not 20.
Yeah,
But,
Reagan's a spring chicken.
He's a baby.
Spring
She's a
chicken.
pup.
Okay, anyways. I grew up watching the WNBA, fell in love with it. I'm one of those fans we're like, I'm not going to deal with it. I'm not going to watch next year. But the WNBA got my money. They got my attention. And, years down. So,
Jesus.
is everything okay, Crystal?
No, it's attacked. I'm getting attacked by my sliding glass door. I'm sorry. Sorry. I didn't. I didn't mean to.
Who won the fight?
I'm sorry.
I know
say
you're
what?
fine.
Square up.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be a big year. So they definitely need to get together for this year. Like this year is gonna be really big. I'm excited for it.
Sally and Reagan, I'm noticing a trend. Anytime you talk, there's some type of intrusion on you, whether it's Shorty's soundtrack on Back to the Future Day in October or Crystal being attacked by a sliding glass door. You can't win, sadly, and I apologize deeply for that, for the rest of the team being a bit dysfunctional, either tonight or just in the past, but, it is what it is. But, Crystal, what does it mean to you, though, again, 20 years WNBA's been here overcoming so many, hurdles, obstacles, whatever it may be, and to be here still standing after, many, changing of the guards across, teams folding and leaving and new ones coming in. Again, what does it mean, Crystal, to you? Again, 20 years of WNBA basketball.
Well, I feel old because I'm older than the WNBA.
Same here.
Same.
But you know what it is? You know how you just a hater. I'm fine like wine. No, but you know how it's kind of like when you're in a relationship, and I'm gonna use this analogy for the WNBA. You're in a relationship, and your friends are like, oh girl, he ain't the one for you. He be doing this, he be doing that, right? But at the same time, it's like they don't want to see you happy. They don't want to see you with him.
They don't want you to succeed.
Exactly. They don't want to see you succeed. They don't want to see you happy. And that's pretty much what the WNBA is. The WNBA is that person that's in a relationship that they kept telling him, like, that's not the one for you, girl. He gonna cheat on you. He gonna leave you with your friend Keisha from up the street. But he didn't. And he's loyal. And he's with you. So WNBA is pretty much like that person that stayed with you, and they've been with you for 20 years after everybody was saying that you're going to be lonely. And I appreciate them for that, because, for them to be ridiculed as long as they have, and for them to stick up with it and stick to their ground, even though sometimes they're slow on things. Like Reagan said, they keep getting your money, and, sometimes the WNBA treats you like a side piece, but you love it, and you go back to it. And you keep going back to it because WNBA is just a great league, even though it has its problems. But 20 years, that's big for a women's sports league in general. That's awesome.
Eric, what do you think, man? Obviously, two guys sitting in here talking about this league. Obviously, as we know, is probably eye-catching in a lot of bad ways in the sports community, more than likely. But Eric, what does it mean to you, though, man? Again, 20 years of WNBA basketball, what does it mean to you?
Man, Crystal really nailed it with that analogy. I can't think of anything better than that.
I was about ready to get up and leave.
I just can't follow that up. I don't know what to say. It was just perfect. But yeah, seriously though, 20 years for women's pro sports league. It's unprecedented. It's just great. It's great for women's sports in general. It's great for basketball in general. Super progressive. I think we've talked about this a billion times before, guys. Here's the 20 more. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and if I had a Newcastle, I'd do a toast, but I don't have any beer in my fridge, sadly. Guys, when I think back to this, when I think back to, obviously being a fan for the past 12 years, kind of seeing the talent that I got to see, either at the high school level, obviously on the Wall of Fame up here, or even as well at the college level games I'd gone to. I actually think back, though, to when I was still in college or in broadcasting school, and I actually got Larry Burnett, the longtime Sparks play-by-play announcer, to actually come onto my Saturday morning radio show and to talk about the league and stuff. And and just hearing the stuff that he had to say about the league and stuff like that, and all the early the early '90s of the league and the early start, was really cool. And that was the same time, though, where Larry was let go by the Sparks and TWCSN, where he was not brought back to call the games on television. He had been with the Sparks for 17 years, pretty much, up until the 2014 season when they made that television lineup change. And, Larry, along with Kevin Ray, who does Fox Sports Arizona for the Mercury, and some other people in the media department that have been with this league for a long time, they know the history, they know what the league goes through, and again, having Larry on my radio show was really rewarding because, we talked about what happened over the off season in 2014 with the Sparks possibly leaving for the Bay Area. We had talked about the rise and fall from how it grew and grew and grew, and then kind of just fell off the cliff, and kind of where it's at now. And again, I just say, I think a word that we bring up here a lot, though, is resiliency. Standing up in the face of adversity, and getting past all the years of and even daily, going through the average day of all the naysayers and the doubters, and as Shorty said, even the haters of the league, that want to see this league, fold for pretty much for absolutely no reason. They want the league to fold, and to see them continually, whether they're slow on things, whatever. But again, to see them continue to climb the ladder and continue to set the example for future basketball players, even future female athletes, in that matter, really says something. And again, folks, 20 years of WNBA basketball. Again, starting up on Friday, May 13th. The full schedule, as reported by Shorty, confirmed by Eric. Hopefully, sometime will be released next week. And of course, folks, again, next Monday is when teams can officially enter into contracts with players going forward for the season. And again, guys, and I think we had brought this up as well, but again, I know that we're all kind of thinking about possible matchups. Shorty, if there's one opening day matchup you want to see on May 13th, there's a lot of options here. Obviously, you can do a lot of either playoff rematches, you can do, regular geographical rivalry matchups. Shorty, if you had to pick one matchup to put on the Friday schedule for the opening day of the league for 2016, who are you putting, who's it going to be and why?
Without question, on the top of my head, they have to do Phoenix, Mercury, Minnesota Lynx.
Yep.
They just have to, because of all that, debauchery and foolery happened with the whole ref situation. That has to be a marquee matchup for opening day.
Reagan, what is your opening day matchup for 2016?
I agree. I think that'll be a great game. I don't know who I would cheer for. Probably neither one of them. If they could both lose, I would hope they would both lose. But I like that game. I like that matchup. So
maybe Reagan can settle for the third part of the column, a draw or tie for those two teams.
Yeah,
KT, who's your opening day matchup and why?
That would be a good one, or possibly, I'm gonna have to go with probably Chicago and Indiana again. I just think they're two really good teams. The way that they battled the regular season, I would love to see that as a marquee game. But I don't know. I think Shorty's game sounds a little bit better though. But I'm gonna have to agree with Reagan. Somebody's gonna have to lose. So if I could run out on the court and be a distraction, so nobody can win, then that'd be awesome. Probably steal the ball a little bit, because I agree. I just don't, and I said this before, No shade to Minnesota. I just don't want to see them win no more. I just can't. Not no more.
Eric, who is your opening day matchup and why?
It's got to be Minnesota and Phoenix, just for reasons that everybody else has said, because I go last, so I can't really add anything. But yeah, they're the two best teams in the league. It's been a rivalry for several years now, so with Phoenix being back at full strength, I don't see why that shouldn't be a marquee matchup. Chicago and Indy, maybe, but we always lose to them, so I really wouldn't want that embarrassment on national TV. So yeah, let's go with Phoenix and Minnesota.
Boy, oh boy, Eric, you have little faith in your ball club, man. My goodness gracious, guys! If I had to pick a opening day matchup before we do get up for the night, folks, I mean, considering this again, this is the 20th season of the WNBA. And sure, this is not LA, New York, but the only remaining Western Conference rivalry that's been from day one. Got to be LA Phoenix, the longest running rivalry in the entire WNBA, but it's been here since day one. Interconference rivalry as well. Again, Sparks Mercury would be my opening one, and I even suggested to Crystal, why not an opening, like a opening day or opening weekend home and home series with LA and Phoenix playing both at Staples Center and at Talking Stick Resort Arena in the desert. With that though, folks, we'll quit while we're ahead here. I know that we were kind of bouncing off the walls tonight between technical problems, me giving way too many jokes out, and putting Crystal on mute for twice tonight, which actually now I believe is the record for most mutes on this brand of the network.
One of those was an accident.
Crystal went on mute tonight?
We will see you folks back
that
here
was
tomorrow
diamond.
night, back here at 10 o'clock. Hopefully we'll have some more business to talk about. If not, we'll be back with you folks on Wednesday night. And again, next Monday again is pretty much a big day again where, again, free agency officially opens and players can officially sign their contracts. Until next time, folks, for Eric over there in Elmhurst, Illinois, and for the two West Coast people out here, Crystal and Shorty up in LA, and Reagan Patrick joining us as well this evening. Cal Clerk and San Diego signing off, saying have a safe night, drive home safely. Thanks for stopping by and joining us for the last hour, and good night. See you next time. Bye-bye.